Hello.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi.
everybody.
Hello.
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 Everyone.
Hello.
Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Hello.
I got that out.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Oh,
Hello.
long time.
你好.
Boy, where's
Yay.
Bueno. That's 20 pages. We got 20 pages.
Oh my God.
495 people. Wow.
495.
495.
Counting.
And counting. Holy smokes.
Buongiorno, David, if you're out there.
Sure.
Oh, hi, Jay. Hi, Molly.
Molly.
Hello, Janet Ivins.
People.
Hi, Ida.
Hello, Dan and Lorraine.
Oh
my God, look at all these
Hi,
people.
Tammy, Bill.
This is Sophie.
Hello.
Want to put your name? Happy birthday, David.
How do I do that?
Oh, my God.
See if it gives you an option.
Okay, I'm about to mute everybody. We're just about to begin.
Hi, Lauren.
We miss you all.
Everybody shout hello
I'd
all at
shout
once.
Oh, David, happy birthday.
Oh, David.
See everybody.
Birthday.
David, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Oh, look at these people. Happy birthday.
Good afternoon. My name is Andy Davis, and I am very happy to be here. I live up the road from David here in Brattleboro, Vermont. And David, I hope you're feeling relaxed this afternoon and you're ready to visit with a whole bunch of your dear friends. That processional of yours got us here, and I'm still smiling. The music, the friendship. It's time to celebrate today. There are 3 parts of today's program. The first is some introductions, and I would recommend that folks, if you wish, you can rename yourself in the upper right-hand corner of your screen by clicking on the little dots and choose rename. If you want to put where you're from, so as people review, that might remind them where you met them and where they're zooming in today from. We're going to start. Oh, and one other thing, we are recording. A question always comes up in the modern world. We are recording this event today. The program today has 3 parts. As I said, an introduction, and then the large review in both live presentations and videos of the many ways that you, David, continue to contribute to this community that we all treasure. Then the third part is the award presentation itself. The program order has been posted at cdss.org. So if you go there and follow a couple of links, you'll find it. And you can refer to that to know where we are in the program. Along the way, there will be music, of course. We have failed in our attempt to keep this brief. So please get up, move about, dance around your house as you enjoy these stories and these memories. I'm very pleased to be here. I've known David for many years as a caller, a composer, an organizer, a writer, an artist, a storyteller and humorist, fiddler, teacher, mentor, and most of all, as a kind, funny, brave, and generous friend. Years ago, David, you wrote in one of your books, "Put energy into the well-being of a contradance, and in my opinion, you stride vigorously toward a better world." You do that. Let's get going with a few words from my co-host, Lissa Schneckenberger.
Thanks, Andy. It is an amazing honor to be here today as co-MC, and thank you to all of you for being here. I'm gonna try my best to keep my eyes dry, at least while I'm speaking to you. I met and played my first gig with David when I was 14, and he has been an amazing mentor and friend ever since. I have learned so much from him over the years as a musician, a teacher, and a human, thanks to his unwavering generosity and commitment to the music and dance community. I know I am not alone when I say David helped propel me into a life rich in music, and for that I am eternally grateful. Thank you, David. I want to set an intention for today as we're gathered here together to shower David in love, appreciation, and gratitude. So I would like to invite you all to take a few breaths together as a group, and with each exhale, we'll send our exuberant appreciation to David for his many accomplishments, both big and small. So you can participate in the way that feels best to you. You can close your eyes or look at the friendly faces on your screen or look out in David's physical direction. So for me here in Brattleboro, David is down in Montague, a few miles south of me. So David, you're over there. I'm going to send my intention to you right now. So all together, let's take a breath in. Exhale, gratitude. And breathe in. Exhale, appreciation. One more, breathe in. Exhale, love. All right, so I'm going to introduce you to the CDSS board president, Gay Pfeiffer, who will get this party started. Take it away, Gay.
Thank you. Can everybody hear? Good. All right. I am delighted to be here as a representative of CDSS to help honor the life and legacy of David Kaynor. CDSS began the practice of giving a Lifetime Contribution Award about 20 years ago in order to acknowledge the incredible work that was being done by individuals to promote our mission, to connect and support people in building vibrant communities through participatory dance, music, and song traditions that have roots in English and North American culture. We accept nomination from folks around the continent for individuals who have made exceptional contributions to this mission of CDSS. We look for people whose work has benefited multiple geographical areas and/or generations of people. Specifically, we want to honor individuals who have increased the quality of what we do by inspiration, instruction, or excellent example. This includes expanding the repertoire of dance, music, and/or song through scholarship or original composition, and bringing what we do to new communities. We also want to appreciate those who organize to make sure our communities thrive and grow. David Kaynor has done all these things for many years with an incredible sense of joy and generosity. As a musician, gifted teacher, choreographer, composer, and dedicated organizer, David has made an incredible difference in the many lives he has touched.
All right, everybody, as many of you know, today is David Kaynor's birthday, and it is of the utmost importance that we sing him a song. So please join us in happy birthday.
We wish you a happy birthday, a joyous celebrated birthday to our dear David. May you have a long, long life. We wish you a happy birthday, a joyous celebrated birthday, a joyous celebrated birthday to our dear David. May you have a happy life. We wish you a happy birthday, a joyous and celebrated birthday to our dear David. May you have a long, long life.
All right, we are going to go over right now to Montague, Massachusetts, and we're going to hear from Becky Hollingsworth, a member of David's wonderful household and a dear friend. Becky?
Thank you, Andy. So, if David were still able to speak, he would do this without even a note card.
I don't think they have you yet.
Oh,
They're not up yet.
I see.
Are there two?
I'm looking. Are you on Sue's?
Oh, there I am. You found me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if David were still able, and thank you, Andy, that's the part that everyone missed. If David were still able to speak, he would do this without even a note card. That's not the case, so he has typed out at least some of what he would have said. He uses his eyes to type letter by letter by letter, so it's quite a process. And those are the words that I'm going to read to you now from David. I'm delighted and humbled to receive the Lifetime Contribution Award. I think about the colossal contributions of past recipients, and I ask myself, why me? Although I enjoyed and believed in what I was doing as a dance caller, fiddle teacher, session host, musician, and graphic artist, I considered myself irrelevant to the lofty circles and activities of the Country Dance and Song Society. A low point in my musical life came in the spring of 1981, when the president of NEFA told me that, in their opinion, what we, that is my cousins, uncle, and other foregone conclusions, bandmates, and I were doing, had nothing to do with New England contra dancing. My response to numerous real or perceived organizational snubs was to submerge myself in the pleasures of the moment and my core interests and pursuits: long distance running, cross-country skiing, dancing, calling dances, teaching basic Swedish dances, teaching basic fiddling, and playing music. I also became something of a calligrapher and graphic artist. Eventually, I found a niche as a teacher and caller. This led to countless gigs in which I enjoyed a happy integration of my artistic, spiritual, and political ideals, and having to earn enough money to get by. All these facets of my life came together when I became music director of the Vermont Fiddle Orchestra and the Fiddle Orchestra of Western Massachusetts. These groups welcomed all musicians of all skill and experience levels. My tasks including all. Our practices blended learning and arranging tunes with in the moment adventure and fun. I wrote out many harmonies while on Amtrak's Vermonter, where the conductors knew me by name, no surprise there, and the scenery was sweetly familiar. I'm grateful to Jay Unger and Molly Mason at Ashokan, Bob Dulcimer and Annie Fane Leiden-Barrelon at the John C. Campbell Folk School, the Reiner family of Fiddle Hell, Paul Rosenberg and Peter Davis at the Dance Flurry, my colleagues at the Northeast Heritage Music Camp, Mike Reddick in Flagstaff, Arizona, Fred Karsh in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Sue Songer and Betsy Branch in Portland, and Mark Lewis and Carla Arnold in La Grande, Oregon, Sherry Nevins and Tom and Amy Wimmer in Seattle, Lyndon Tony in Olympia, Washington, and numerous other organizers and bandmates in the Pacific Northwest. These folks gave me opportunities to share my developing skills and deep love of music and dancing, not just once, but over and over. Thanks to all these people, I was able to cultivate relationships with and within their communities. This in turn enabled me to not just share tons of fun, but also share experiences of growth and development in many ways. Our skills and repertoire evolved, and so did our senses of self, possibility, and purpose. We didn't just perform music and dance, we shared it. This became a fundamental personal philosophy. There are times and places for performing, but sharing can happen so much more often and is good for us all. Maybe it's even good for the world. I struggled to matter for as long as I can remember. This showed itself in a number of ways, including sports and music and dance. I was always dogged by the weight of self-doubt. This finally dissipated in the final years of my career, thanks to all of the above who provided opportunities for us to explore mattering together. All of that from David and from me and from the heart. Thanks for showing up.
Wow. Thank you, Becky, for reading, and thank you, David, for those words. You are just as well written as ever, and kudos for having written all of that with your eyes, letter by letter. So impressive. Thank you. So we have an incredible program planned for you this afternoon, with presentations from many of the various overlapping communities that David has sewn together and connected throughout his lifetime. But I also want to acknowledge that this is just a small sample of all the communities and individuals who are grateful to you, David. So for every presenter, please know that there are exponentially more that we are not able to hear from today. To start things off, we're going to hear a tune that David wrote called The Sustainers, which he wrote this past year in appreciation for all the people who have helped sustain him. It includes a musical bridge with lyrics written by Peter Siegel and was recorded by the members of the Greenfield Country Dance Band with special guests, as is their tradition, and filmed and edited by Ray Siebold.
And sustain. You are a teacher. You are a listener. You are a friend. You hear a call, a cry from one, a cry for all. You are ones seldom seen. You are a giver to those in need. You hold so much, the weight of the world unseen. You hear a call, cry from one, a cry for all. I see you, you are seen.
Beautiful. We have Jay Unger and Molly Mason here with us today from Woodstock, New York, to talk about their long collaborations with David. Are you there, Jay and Molly?
We are.
We're here.
First, happy birthday to David. What a great thing. We're here upstairs at the Ashokan Center in the Discovery Room. The walls are kind of ringing a little bit with chestnuts that they've heard over the decades from jam sessions and classes.
Thanks so much to Country Dance and Song Society for providing this way for so many people to thank and celebrate David. We first got to know David in the 1980s when Ashokan music and dance camps were just beginning. They were called Fiddle and Dance Workshops. He became an essential part of Northern Week forever. At camp, it quickly became clear that David was more than a fine musician and teacher. He personified community by pitching in whenever extra hands were needed and always demonstrating a fun-loving inclusiveness.
David's deep commitment to community has been evident in all he's done over the years. The stages at David's dances have always been a welcome place for musicians of all levels to join in, learn, and be an active part of things. In his classes, at jam sessions, or around the dinner table, he always finds a comfortable way to make sure no one is left out or left behind.
The number of people noticed and nurtured by David over the decades could populate a small city. And what a wonderful city it would be. The sense of community underlying all Ashokan events has been forever enhanced by his influence. And this is surely true of the many other camps and dances that have been lucky enough to have him on staff over the years.
We have fond memories of David's antics as the merman, surfacing from the mill pond here at the Ashokan Center, draped in seaweed and surprising giggling children and adults alike. We also cherish memories of playing dances with David and jamming with him late at night after the dance was over or the following morning after plenty of his world-class coffee.
I remember the coffee well. We'll never match it. We were fortunate to get an advance copy of David's original tunes, and we began performing them and sharing them. And true to form, it appears that he's going to put them in the public domain so that anyone can play, share, and enjoy them.
Beautiful tunes. Thank you, David.
What an interesting and fine example he sets in so many ways. So we're two of the many people whose lives have been touched in a big way by him as a musician and a mentor, and we love him deeply.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Molly. So well said. Well, we're going to move right along to Fiddle Hell, which is another place where David has been a key person, and they have sent us a video presentation, and we'll hear from Ed over at Fiddle Hell. And all of you at Fiddle Hell who have tuned in today, I know that your program is going on right now. Thanks for joining us. Here's Ed and Fiddle Hell.
Hi, David. It's been really wonderful having you be such a special part of Fiddle Hell for many years, and the Eidreiner family and so many Fiddle Hell participants and instructors are thrilled to join in this celebration today. You're an incredibly thoughtful, creative, and skilled musician, caller, teacher, composer, and more. And the joy that you bring and draw from traditional music and dance, and from community, are contagious in the best possible way. In addition, what many people spoke about at the Say Hi to David Kaynor session we had at Fiddle Hell Online last November was how you've impacted many individuals through being so encouraging and welcoming. David, your genuine desire and actions to include everyone in any conversation, jam, dance band, or experience have helped lots of people connect with music and each other in life-changing ways. We can all draw inspiration from your outlook and bring it to every part of our lives. Congratulations and thank you for your countless contributions to so many people's lives and musical worlds. Happy birthday, David!
All right, well, that was actually Eric Eidreiner with a special wave from Autumn Rose there. And our next presenter first met David in 1980 when they started coming to the Pioneer Valley and dancing to the Foregone Conclusions. They started playing with David in Greenfield in April of 1984, and this weekend marks their anniversary of playing music together for 37 years. So let's hear it for Stuart Kenny.
Well, I'm so excited today to be here honoring David Kaynor for his Lifetime Achievement Award. I can't think of a more fitting human being to receive this award. David has this impeccable ability to read his room. So if he sees a busload of kids coming in from one of the local colleges, he'll move it so they feel included. But if he sees, a full line of experienced people and they've been there all night, he's going to throw them, a fastball of a harder dance. So he has this incredible ability to read his crowd, and so everyone feels like they're not over their head. Again, it's a social dance, and David always had everyone feel welcome, whether it was the back row band people, the people just walking in off the street. Just incredible. Probably the likes of it we won't see in the future, because his ability to draw in everyone to be part of this conscientious scene is a really important work, and David has succeeded in this mission of his through the years to bring this to all of us. So a big thing about David that just excites me when I think back to it is how many futures of acoustic musicians that he has invited to be who they are today, or he is just like, and then you think about the people that he started on fiddle, and then those people become fiddle teachers. Then all of a sudden they'd have students, and it all started at David's chair, passing along his goodwill to all of us. And there are so many hundreds of people that would attribute their fiddle music, their American fiddle music, to David Kaynor's American fiddle music. Years ago, back in '84, I came walking into this beautiful hall with my upright bass, and David had invited me to come play that evening. And at the end of that gig, he said, "What are you doing in 2 weeks when we come back?" And I said, "Well, I can come over and play again, David." That got my whole career starting. I was a young man, and I didn't really know what I was doing so much, but he just welcomed me in and said, follow the guitar, play the notes, ask what they're playing. And I really learned how to play bass in this room. That inclusion, he has done it multiple times in his lifetime, of including all of our back row band people. Our back row band people were playing and jamming back there as important as the people up front. And then all of a sudden they're sitting front row because they got their chops together, and just so inclusive. That's the big thing. I get goosebumps just talking about how inclusive David is. When I think about David and his contributions through the years, I think about mentorship. The thing about mentorship that David includes all is that he never held back in mentoring all of us. The great mentor doesn't hold back, and they share it all. And David is an incredible mentor to me and so many people, and I am floored to have had an experience to play with David for so many years, and I just look forward to keeping the rhythms going and playing them in my head and creating more pieces through the influence of David in my life. Huge congratulations to you, David, for this amazing achievement, and it goes to such an honorable human being. Thank you.
was good.
Yeah, I got choked up one point earlier on, and I almost did there.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, you know.
There have been a couple of questions about why are we here? And we're here for the Guiding Star Grange Hall fundraiser event put on by the Friends of the Guiding Star Grange. Many of whom are on the stage, but more of whom are on the dance floor. And anybody who isn't yet a member.
Thank you, Stuart, for that very real talk that you just gave. We've got Peter Siegel here today live. And Peter, I've got a video of you playing in the Montague May Day processional back in 1997 on your mandolin. That's 24 years ago. Yikes. Are you there, Peter? There we go.
There I am.
Yes.
Happy birthday, David. We love you. And so, as usual, Stuart and I matched our wardrobe to say similar things here. But I first met David at Ashokan in 1994, right out of college. And at the time, Paul Rosenberg was helping me become familiar with playing dances in Albany. And my friends, Brittany and Kristen, and I had started playing fiddle tunes in a band called Beverwick. David offered selfless mentoring for me. And these relationships are really his true legacy and that of the Grange. I was originally won over by his philosophy of inclusion and of course his second grade level bathroom humor. I think we saw eye to eye on that, and we became friendly, and eventually our band toured the Northeast. I know that David has mentored a lot of bands touring as well, and we toured the Northeast like 2 or 3 times with him. And he invited us to play the Grange sometime around that time, and Stuart played with us. A few years later, a series of fortuitous connections landed me a mile up the road from David on Taylor Hill in Montague, as I was going to study in the valley there. And many days were spent with David on long runs, actually long for me and probably not for him, through the rolling hills of Leverett and Montague. And David is a coach. Like, he's really a coach at heart, and he had a patient way of gently coaxing me up some enormous uphills. It's this like incredible metaphor for all the work he has done with other people and in his life. And soon after my arrival in Montague, he invited me to play with the Greenfield Dance Band. And it was just like life-changing as it was for Stuart. And at that time in the 90s, Friday and Saturdays were often like 2 to 5 sets. It was the place to be for dancing, and it was a real manifestation of David's legacy. Mary Kay and Stuart were regular fixtures, and long, expansive evenings were what happened on the 2nd, 4th, and 5th Fridays. But I wanted to say the inspirational Grange scene does not reflect it doesn't really paint a picture of the painstaking patience and coaching that David did to create it. In the early 80s, week after week. So I hear he played for not that many folks and just built and built and built this thing that so many people take for granted. And him joining the Grange institution is also the reason so many dancers and musicians had their eyes opened to getting involved in these community organizations. And he also joined the Montague Grange, which later I joined and became an officer and did all the pomp and ceremony, which we all loved. So on Fridays, we'd usually arrive around 5:30 for dancing, for setting up the dance. There'll be a potluck. We'd set up, we'd eat, doors would open, people would come in and eat. There'd be scanty dancing from 7 to 7:30 and contras from 8 to around midnight. And it was really long for a contra dance. And I think the dancers really liked that. The musicians kind of liked that. It was a long and expensive evening. And it was wonderful. And every few months he held the free beginners workshop, which really drew so many beginners into contra dancing, which is the other thing we really need to thank David for. We would have 5 or 6 enormous sets by the end of the night, a third filled with beginners. So over the last 25 years, I just want to say a couple more things. Over the last 25 years, I've traveled with David through the South, the Northwest, other parts of the East. I see how revered he is elsewhere. But I think his greatest contributions have been in his own backyard. And oddly, as with many artists, the depth of understanding of his influence is felt and expressed more elsewhere than home. And a lot of the local and what David might even refer to as the hot shit dancers don't necessarily understand the depth of his influence. His legacy as an organizer, teacher, and coach at the Guiding Star Grange is deeply ingrained, but quietly felt often. And in the Pioneer Valley, the secret treasure, Pioneer Valley Greenfield is really a secret treasure, I think. Northampton, Amherst, and Brattleboro being these things that people know. And within Greenfield, the Guiding Star Grange is a little treasure that only us dancers and traditional musicians know. And for the Grange, David is the treasure. David is the treasure of the Guiding Star Grange and the dance scene that not everyone really fully appreciates. And I see that with this number of people we have here, I hope he is really feeling that appreciation today. So thank you. I love you.
Thank you so much, Peter. Ray Siebold has been a part of the greater Greenfield dance community for as long as I can remember, as a dancer, builder, helper, videographer, and even at one point as David's housemate. He's put together the next video. It's a video homage to the Greenfield dance scene, which concludes with a reading from an entry that David left in the Guiding Star Grange logbook, and that's read by Becky Tracy.
So it just feels great to be here with you, and I want to read one little thing. So this was David's original book. I'm sure he's had many. I'm not sure what the number is where people have written in it, but in the very last paragraph, he says this: "Along the way, I learned how to call sufficiently to work in some far-off, famous, and full dance halls. But most of what it took to get those opportunities and what I took to them came from this hall, this dance, this gang of musicians, and this group of dancers. In a way, the Greenfield dance crowd gets to every dance I go to, and what we have done together gets done in every dance I call and tune I play. But I always feel best at this dance. It's home."
Thank you, David. Those words are so inspiring. Well, George Wilson, we have to have George. He's here today from Wine and Skill. I hope I said that right, George. I'm getting it.
You did.
Excellent. Wine and Skill, New York, over Albany Way. George and David, an incredible fiddle duet But I did want to say that, David, when you harmonize, you make any duet extraordinary. George, take it away.
Okay, well, yeah, I've known, loved, and played music with David, well, ever since we had full heads of brown hair and full faces of brown hair too. I guess back in the 80s sometime, David was the caller for Phoenix All Stars for a while. And anyway, yeah, David and I I've just had wonderful times with David, just being in his presence and playing tunes with his wonderful harmonies and trying to make harmonies while he's playing melody. I never got my harmonies up to Kaynor quality, but keep working on it. And and telling terrible jokes like Peter Siegel mentioned. It's great stuff. And so the wonderful thing is David is still composing tunes using, writing the notes with his eyes, like Becky mentioned, writing words. So I'm going to play one of them. One of the, it's called Stalwarts. It's a reel in honor of his wonderful caregivers. And he just wrote it a few weeks ago. So here it is. On David's old Andrew Hyde fiddle made in Northampton, Mass. Here we go. So there you go. Happy birthday and a big air hug, David. And see you soon, I guess.
Thank you, George. That was awesome. Our next guest on this show is Doug Plummer, who is a Seattle-based photographer and musician who originally met David at Sandy and Alan's Monday night jam session in 2014, and who is very grateful to David for being so supportive of his learning curve on playing piano accompaniment. Next, we'll see a series of interviews with members of the Northwest music and dance community that Doug put together for today's event.
Out here in the Northwest, we've been blessed to have David come out a few times a year for decades, always to folk life and usually to fiddle tunes, and usually in December for a tour. And he's brought such a depth of knowledge of the tradition. It's always impressive to me to see David seems to know exactly what he wants to do next without referring to a list or dance cards.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Lots of people know that there's a big festival in Seattle held every Memorial Day weekend called Folklife. And one of the great features of Folklife is a approximately 5,000 square foot dance floor that is put down every year for the floor and then taken up again.
Fairly early on in David's visits to the Northwest, he got involved in setting up the Folklife floor, and it became important to him to be a part of that process.
And not only helping getting it down, but the floor has to get picked up again after the last dance on the last night. And at that time, people are kind of fatigued. David would always still be there helping us pick the floor up. I'm in a group called the Les Fabulous Girls Due Northwest, known as the Fabs. And David was one of our favorite callers. He was willing to dress up for the dance or dress down, depending on your perspective. And we appreciated that. But really, folk life has people who dance all the time and who come and dance all weekend, and that's all they're there for. And it also has people from all over the Northwest who've never seen this before, hear the music, look in the windows, and come in and decide to give it a try. So that whole incredible mixed, chattering, excited crowd, David could get them all going in the fewest words possible, no wasted time, and get the whole floor moving.
Well, I've known David for many, many years, and I first went back east touring with my own dance band and stayed at his home and experienced his Monday night jam. I came home inspired, and my husband and I started a Monday night jam here in Seattle. That has grown and grown, and I've seen people come into the jam that really were beginners, didn't know hardly any tunes or any chords or anything, and then grow and grow and grow, and eventually lead their own band or their own jam, and it's really been fun.
Musically here in the Northwest, David led both by example and by encouragement. In fact, I'll bet there's hardly anyone anywhere who hasn't felt better about themselves after an encounter with David.
I'll tell a little story about the first time that I sat next to David in a big open dance band at Fiddle Tunes. During the walkthrough, in the old tradition, he started telling me a long and involved and dirty joke. I'm not going to tell you it now, but he timed the punchline so that when the caller said, "And now with the music," I was doubled over in laughter and unable to play. And I know that David intended it exactly like that.
Split the ladies. Split the gents. Face up and down.
You know that any party that you invite David to is going to be a brilliant success because so many people want to be around this man. And for the last few years, I've held a Christmas Eve music jam, potluck, and contra dance in my living room. And it draws a lot of people who want to hang out with David and dance the evening away. And one of the things I insist on is that we dance Money Musk at some point in the evening. David, being David, of course, calls a version of Money Musk with a swing in it to make it more accessible. And how can you argue with that?
So David, congratulations on being the recipient of the Lifetime Contribution Award. It's much deserved. And since I met you in October of 1989, you've found many good friends and a second home in the Northwest. Your generosity with music has helped you work your way into the hearts of many. You're beloved in the Northwest. I miss you, and I will love you forever.
That was beautiful. Thank you to all of you for being part of that montage. So for many of us, the author of the famed Portland collection needs no introduction. However, Sue Songer has been an important part of the music scene in the Northwest for many years as a musician, organizer, and author, and she is here to tell us about an exciting new project she's working on, as well as a few stories.
Well, I am going to tell you about that project, but I thought it was fitting that first I tell you about David as a house guest, since you have just heard about his visits to the Northwest. And many of you have probably also had the same experience as David as house guest, but for those of you who haven't, here's how it goes. He arrives probably by public transportation of some kind or another. And he is carrying a large fiddle case and a large satchel. And on his back, he has a very large pack. And he has offered to either take public transportation or even walk to your house. But you probably don't let him. You probably go pick him up. And He wants to know right off the bat about your coffee situation. In fact, if your coffee situation was not clear to him before he came to your place, he might have asked you about it before he got there. So you would have a coffee situation waiting for him upon his arrival. So he gets himself settled, and then he makes it a point to connect with whoever is in your house, and to be interested in what they are doing. And this includes the animals as well as the people. So he's very interested in whatever is going on. If he sees that there's a way he can pitch in and help, he does that without being asked. He's particularly interested in what's going on in the kitchen, and might cut and chop or might just sit there and watch. And whatever you serve him, he probably replies with, no matter what he really thinks of it. That's what we hear. So when he's gotten himself settled, he wants to know if you want to play some tunes. And you probably do, because after all, it's David Kaynor in your house and you want to take advantage of playing with him. So he will play tunes with you just as long as you are willing, and he will play at whatever level you are able to play. And he will be totally content doing that. And if he's not playing tunes with you, he is maybe working on his own music, and he's doing this in a very intentional, detailed, and diligent way. It's not haphazard. He might be practicing something over and over. He might be writing a tune. He might be laboring over a harmony. And this is the behind the scenes stuff that goes on for David that looks effortless when he just does it on stage and in public. But that is built on hours and hours of practice and very careful consideration of how he wants his music to sound. So probably he has worked in a chance to run. And he will run all over your neighborhood, and he will run beyond your neighborhood because he runs very far and very fast. And when he comes back, he will tell you all kinds of things you didn't know about your surroundings, where you live. And he will be giving you directions of how to get from place to place in your own hometown and practically in your own backyard. And pretty soon it'll come time for him to leave, and he will want to get to his launch point, wherever that is, in very good time, so that there is no anxiety about catching his next ride or flight or whatever. And so you decide on the time, and then when it's time, you come to get him, and he might go, oh, I lost track of things. And then he very quickly packs up, and he does make it to his next destination when he had intended to. And so you send him on, and you look forward to his next visit, whenever that is. And when I was thinking of how to say this, I found I could only say it in the present tense, even though David's not able to be a house guest anymore. And so that made me think further that, David, you will always be present tense for me. You will not be a guest. You will be a permanent resident in my head from now on. All right. So we can move on to the project. And I will mention that I'm here with David, and I'm looking at him as I'm saying these things, which makes it all the more special. So if you're not already overwhelmed by the many things that David has done, you will be very shortly. But help is on the way. Because David and I have been working on a book together about all the many things he's done for about 2.5 years. And I will just give you a brief sample, and I think that something may go up in the chat that will explain to you how you can sign up for pre-order or notification or whatever. So this is called David Kaynor, Living Music and Dance. David chose the title. And I'm just going to flick through a few little parts of it so you can see what all is in here. I hope I can do it quickly. I actually practiced this so I wouldn't waste anybody's time. So it has a section. This is an autobiography that David wrote within the past year, and it's going to have David's version of his life. It will be followed by writings from others about his involvement in the many, many communities he's been involved in. It will have all of David's, almost all of David's compositions. He keeps writing them. And there may be some that come too late to get in the book. But anyway, there will be a section of his music, everything he's composed. It will look something like this. That music section is going to include the harmonies he's written for his tunes. And that's going to look like this, with melody and harmony on the same page. There's just tons and tons of music. And then it will have the entirety of his book, Calling for Beginners. Some of you may remember that. And it will have all of the dances he composed, formatted thusly. Those contributions all came from other people, by the way, because David never wrote down most of his dances. And so most of those are from people who copied down his dances as he was calling them. And there's one more thing I want to show you. Okay. Some of you, especially people not in the New England area, might not be familiar with David's artwork. Here's an example of the flyers that he created for his dances. And this art is going to be scattered throughout the book. There are many, many reproductions of his flyers that have been carefully remastered by a couple people. And so if you'd like to know more about that, the information should be in the chat. And David, thank you for everything, large and small.
All right. Well, I know we're all very, very excited to get our hands on that book, especially, well, speaking for myself, I've been attempting to steal David's harmony parts for many years. And also I've been saving all of the flyers, the dance flyers with the artwork and the calligraphy. I have like a folder right behind me. So this book is going to make things much easier for me. Thank you. All right, our next presenter is Bob Dulcimer, and he currently lives in Black Mountain, North Carolina, and met David back in the 1980s. David was one of the 4 original instructors that Bob hired for the Brasstown Dance Musicians Week when it started in 1995, and also the only one who returned every year thereafter. We'll also hear a little bit of music from the Presley Girls, so get ready.
Well, this is Bob Dulcimer. I'm at the John C. Campbell Folk School, and we want to give a big congratulations to our good friend David Kaynor. He's like a member of our family here at the Folk School. He helped me found the Dance Musicians Week here in 1995, and I think he's attended every year since we've had it, and so he's been just a big part of that program and has been inspiring for all of us, and we just want to congratulate him on getting this award. And now I want to introduce a couple of his good friends from here in Brasstown, Katie and Corey Presley, the Presley sisters, the Presley Girls.
1, 2, 3, 4. Kaynor originals called Twin Delights that he really sweetly wrote for us. And we just want to say thank you for all you've done for our music, David, of course, and congrats. Congrats for this award, because you deserve it and everything else and more.
Yeah, big congrats, David, and thanks for all you've done for us.
Thank you, Katie and Corey. That was fantastic. Well, we have Fred Karsh here live from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Katie Presley herself from the Presley sisters here live from Brasstown, North Carolina, to share a bit more about Dance Musicians Week and about this Michigan to North Carolina north-south axis of David's rambles. Fred, Katie, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We got Fred. There we go. Hi, Katie.
Hey.
So, hello, everybody. And first off, David, Katie, and I want to congratulate you on this award. And the award is so deserving, and it goes way beyond your being a superb musician, a dance organizer and caller, and a composer of tunes we love to play. David, you have this magical talent to draw us together in a comfortable environment to learn and play. You're an inspirational leader, a mentor, a role model, and a true friend. You welcome everybody, regardless of skill level, to build a community where we support each other through music. And David, to me, this is your true gift to us, and we are better for having you in our lives. So thank you very, very much. So about Dance Musicians Week, as you've heard, David headed up this course for about the past 25 years at the John Campbell Folk School. He's attracted some incredible instructors, currently Susan Songer, Betsy Branch, Peter Siegel, and Andy Davis. I've taken this course the past 5 years and experienced a week of total contradance music immersion, where we share the joy of learning and playing music together. We connect with the whole folk school, playing at the dining hall. We go around and tour other classes and play. And we play at evening contradances that are put on for the entire folk school and the Brasstown area. And as students, we're put in small groups and then instructed and coached to play at contradances that go on in the evening. Everybody loved Dance Musicians Week. And I have to say that taking this class is what led to David's recent Ann Arbor connection. During the first year that I was a student, I invited David to visit Ann Arbor and help with our plan here to attract young musicians. And here's just one example of the impact that he's had. During his first visit to Ann Arbor, he encouraged 2 of our young musicians to attend the Northeast Heritage Music Camp in Vermont. And he helped them get financial help. When they traveled there, he hosted them to stay at his house and to play at the contradance at the Guiding Star Grange Hall. Well, when they got back to Ann Arbor, they were so pumped up that they recruited some other young musicians, formed a band of their own, and that band now plays for our local dances. And to top it off, some of these musicians have assumed leadership roles, and one of them is now the president of our local music and dance organization. So David, thank you. Your support here has really helped make things happen. So David has come back multiple times, and the last time he helped bring in the Presley girls who grew up in Brasstown to connect with our Michigan music and dance community. And oh my, did we ever have a blast, which included a snowshoe trip to the wilds of northern Michigan, which was quite an experience. So with that, David, thank you so much. Congratulations on your award. We love you. And Katie, I will turn it over to you to share some of your thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Fred. I met David probably
probably the first time 15 years ago, something like that, at the folk school. He was calling during Dance Musicians Week. There's a dance every night, and he was calling. And the first time I ever walked into the room, I was very new to contra dance, and I was just a kiddo. And I looked at the stage, and these musicians, probably Peter was there, Sue, you were there, and it was just the most wonderful thing, this music. And he smiled at me, and it was his smile, and that was it. I never forgot about it. And I thought, I want to do that. I really, I grew up in a musical family, and I thought maybe I could do that. That looks so wonderful, so enriching. What if I could do that too? If I could play that music for people? And then that was it. Our paths crossed a couple years later. I become of age to be able to take the Dance Musicians Week, and I ended up taking that class, and that was it. David was a lifelong friend after that. And I think, of course, everybody could talk forever about what he's done for music, all of his contributions as far as his talent and all of these skills. But I think what really stuck with me is how he made me feel like I could do it. He encouraged me. And then he facilitated this trip to Ann Arbor, where we were able to go and play music and meet these people. And I know it never would have happened without his encouragement for my music. And he was also a really big part of convincing us to get on an airplane, because we had never flown. We were pretty scared to do that. But it's that sweet, kind, gentle, all-including kind of personality, I think, that's really touched the hearts of so many of us and has really stuck with us. And that's, of course, his music lives forever. It lives everywhere. It lives in my heart. It lives in me when I play it. But it's that sweet and tender part of him too that really touched me and encouraged me and let me know I could do it. And so many other people feel that. And it's what I refer to as the David Kaynor magic. Someone else said that, and that's it. That's the magic. And we're lucky that he come to Brasstown, and that him and Bob Dulcimer kind of made a connection. And it's for the last 30 years been the most beautiful thing that's happened to Brasstown, in my opinion. So we love you, David. Thank you so much. Happy birthday. And we love you so much. So I hope you know that.
Thank you so much, everybody. That was lovely.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Fred and Katie. We're going to move on back to Vermont, back to New England here. Emerson Gale and Molly Backup from Central Vermont created a video presentation on the Vermont Fiddle Orchestra. David pretty much kept Amtrak in business traveling up to Montpelier, Vermont for the rehearsals. Emerson is a new friend of David's who immediately noticed the twinkle in David's eyes whenever he plays. Molly has known David for decades as a dancer, fiddler, and she is now the president of the VFO. So roll the film there, Charlie.
In 2013, when Sarah Hotchkiss decided it was time to retire, we never dreamed David Kaynor would agree to be the musical director of the Vermont Fiddle Orchestra. It would mean driving 5 hours or taking the train with all his gear, staying over in Montpelier on a weekly basis. It turns out we were just the challenge itinerant musician and Pied Piper David was ready to adopt. David took on the challenge of leading our varied band of musicians, ranging in age and ability and from accordion to penny whistle. His uncanny ability to keep us all challenged and growing in our pleasure of playing music together seemed to give him as much joy as it did us. Without being asked, David arrived early for weekly rehearsals to play unnamed, unannounced tunes slowly for about 20 minutes as we tuned. Soon, we were playing by ear as we warmed up our fingers. He encouraged us to try harmonies or rhythmic bowing, challenging the more advanced players. And he arranged music to bring out our sound as an orchestra, as well as individual and smaller group sounds. And of course, he made us all feel not just a part of the whole, but an important part. Most importantly, we all had fun. David always found a way for us to sound good, to include everyone, and to inspire us with his fabulous music and his ability to create and build community. David last led the VFO at our concert on December 7, 2019. He could no longer speak with his voice. His music, his smile, and his heart spoke beautifully. We are so glad David chose to make us part of his fabulous musical journey. Playing his tunes brings him into the room once more. Enjoy this tune, not written by him, but in his honor.
For that. It's so exciting in this year of Zoom to hear live group applause. And it is so well deserved. Becky Shannon moved to Northampton in 2012 and drifted into David's orbit via Fiddle Hal, myself, the Northeast Heritage and dances at the Guiding Star Grange and Fiddler's Green. David became a bit of a guru for her, and together they birthed the Fiddle Orchestra of Western Massachusetts, which Becky is going to tell you all about.
Well, the most fantastic thing about David, I think, is that he seems to know just all the tunes. It's amazing how many tunes are in his head, and he can teach a tune quicker than anyone and get a room full playing along, even if they don't know the tune. It's an amazing thing to play these ear tunes like the Vermont Fiddle Orchestra was talking about. He starts playing and 15 minutes later, all this random sound coalesces and you get this big, wonderful sound of everybody tuned in. It's great. Alice Young and I, the co-founders of the Fiddle Orchestra of Western Massachusetts, met at David's Monday night sessions in Montague, where we learned about his Vermont Fiddle Orchestra and thought Northampton's central location in Western Massachusetts would be a fantastic place for something similar. And David, who never says no, that I know of, to playing tunes, of course said yes when Alice and I asked him to head up this wild endeavor. David brought on board Annika Amstutz as his assistant. And in 2017, the Fiddle Orchestra opened its doors, and we have been playing tunes ever since, even during this pandemic. Our mission, a la David, has always been camaraderie and learning, and most of all, playing tunes and public performance. David's energy and vitality made all tunes approachable and playable, no matter your skill level. And his belief in us has been proven over and over again. That belief that a group of just ordinary people can create a performance far greater than the sum of our parts. I want to end by reading something penned by co-founder Alice Young. David, you were the best first director this orchestra could have dreamed of. You made everyone feel welcome. You instructed us in music, taught us life lessons, made us laugh, inspired us to keep playing tunes, and modeled influencing others with love. We walked away from each rehearsal with tunes under our fingers, a lightness in our step, and a fondness for our fellow music learners. As seasons come and go, we may evolve, but you will always remain our guiding star. We will always remember the greatest lesson we learned from you, that music is not just an end, but a means to making the world a better place. Congratulations on your Lifetime Contribution Award. It could not have gone to someone more deserving. With much love, the Fiddle Orchestra of Western Massachusetts. Happy birthday, David, and thank you so much for all the tunes. Love you.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, David. That's so inspiring, seeing all of you play. Music says it so well. And what a journey this has been today. And it brings us right back to the Pioneer Valley now, bringing it all back home. We're going to hear from two members of David's family. Van Kaynor from Amherst, Mass. First met David when he was 1 or 2 years old, and David was his big 11 or 12-year-old cousin. Cami Kaynor from Melrose, Mass. is another of David's cousins. Cami first found out that David was into contradance music at a Kaynor Thanksgiving in the mid-70s. He'd been living in Maine and Vermont and had gotten hooked on the same music and dance at the same time, completely independently. Over to you guys, Van and Cami.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. And Cami, I think, is there. Oh, there he is. Hi, bro. So I thought it appropriate maybe to start out with a joke that David used to tell sometimes. It's one of the few clean ones. So it's why it's a little dangerous to ask us to present. So here's the joke. How many Kaynors does it take to change a light bulb?
Shall I answer?
You should answer.
Okay, 15. You have 1 to change the light bulb, and the other 14 sit around and reminisce about how great the old one was.
That sort of puts our family in a nutshell of who we are. So I'll try not to reminisce too long. But do you want to start, Cam?
Oh, sure. So I was overwhelmed by the thought of what to say because David, I've known him my whole life. So I just grabbed something that I had written to a friend a couple of years ago, about 1.5 years ago. I was writing about David and about how I'd found in David someone who had an equal passion for community and the value it brings to human existence. Communities can even be generated on the spot in real time, and you, David, are a master at this. And I quote from that letter: when you go to a festival somewhere and you find an impromptu crowd of fiddlers chugging away on Fisher's hornpipe with harmonies and improvisations coloring the swelling sound of the melody, there is a good chance you will find David Kaynor in the middle of the crowd, prompting, encouraging, smiling, and giving it his all, because that is who David Kaynor is. That is what inspires us, and that is what we all need. Even though David is physically unable to be there anymore, in my mind and in his heart, he is still there in the middle of any community activity, prompting, encouraging, and smiling and giving it his all. And this will never end for many lifetimes of contribution. I'll turn it over to Van now.
Thank you, Cami. I thought some of you may not know some of the things I'm going to say, so I just throw in my first memory of David Kaynor. It wasn't when I was 2, when he probably we encountered each other, but the first memory I have of him, I just remembered about a week ago when I was asked that question, and it was when we were at our great aunt's house in Wilbraham called the Meeting House. We share a grandfather who we never met because he died in the early 30s. He was a congressman, and he was killed in a plane crash coming home from Washington, I believe. And his our grandmother found out about his death from the newspaper. So there's the day. That's how things worked in those days. Not quite. Hopefully, it doesn't happen much anymore. Anyway, we had this meeting house in Wilbraham where we had family gatherings, and I remember I was probably 8 or 10, and I remember the sirens going off right nearby in the Wilbraham Fire Department, calling firefighters for an alarm. And turns out the house across the street was billowing smoke. It was right there. And my first memory of David was that day, because I think he had some gear in his car. He got his gear on, he ran across the street. He was the very first one there. And he got the hydrant prepared for the first fire truck, which arrived soon after. And the good end of the story is I think the fire was put out before it engulfed the whole house. But that was the beginning of what I feel like was a lifetime of community service that David really has provided. And I didn't realize till last week that that's probably what inspired me. When I finished college, I ended up joining the Amherst Fire Department call force for 10 years, became an EMT and a pump operator. It ended up being a very important part of my life. And I appreciate David's sort of, I realize in my back of my mind, he was probably part of the reason I did that. Then quickly, I'll just say some of the music related things, which is David's fiddle skills people have mentioned. Very impressive to Cami and me. We had the advantage of private classical violin lessons from 8 years old on. David Kaynor, I believe, started when he was in his mid-20s and was self-taught. And just an amazing ability, both technically throughout his life, always improving. The main thing that I especially admire is his ability to find harmonies that are not the normal harmonies. So it's like a third part. And that's what made our foregone conclusions somewhat unique. And Andy and Bill Spence mentioned that as a reason for wanting to record us around 1980 when we made the album that's behind Cami, except Bernie Sanders wasn't part of it back then. So in any event, that third harmony bit is just an uncanny, intuitive ability that I admire so much. And I struggle with writing harmonies myself. It takes me hours and hours of writing on paper to figure out what might work. David can do it on the fly. Just a wonderful contribution to our band and to the music world, where he allows people to make mistakes and says, if it doesn't sound good, try going up a half step or whatever. So then the other thing was the Swedish connection. I don't think anyone has mentioned, but David went to a Bulgarian folk festival, I believe, probably in the 70s. I don't have my dates all in my head, but he hit it off with some Swedish fiddlers. And after that, there were years of exchanges, people traveling to Sweden, our family mostly, but Becky Ashton and other people in our band. And then Swedes coming here, doing workshops in Hambo, in Petersham, in the early 80s. And I really feel like that connection was so wonderful for our band and for the larger community. If you go to a contra dance, pre-COVID and post-COVID, hopefully, you'll often hear a hambo during the break at a contra dance. That was unusual in the old days. I think you can really trace that right back to David as being one of the main reasons that happens today. It was more in the folk dance world where you might see Swedish dancing, but it's part of many of our experience now. And I have a great love for that kind of music. So, and then the other thing was his compositions, which have been mentioned. I can't wait to get the book, but I use many in my teaching. And also I play in the main band I play in is the Moving Violations, as many know. And one of our favorite medleys is all David Kaynor tunes. And it's a hit. People just love it. And it was one of the last things we played before COVID hit at the Snowball up in New Hampshire. And it ends with a tune called Regrets. But if you find it on YouTube, you will not have any regrets listening to it. I promise. So, and finally, I just want to say, David has been a mentor for me, really, for living life. This is beyond music too. He's taught me to enjoy the process rather than the goal. I sometimes remember more about the beautiful back roads we discovered going to a gig than the gig itself. This attitude seems to allow David to continue to remain creative and engaged through seemingly huge challenges, and he adjusts as needed to the situation. All this with a continued sense of humor that can keep us smiling. Don't be fooled by this lifetime award. David does and will continue to contribute to our community in an active way. You definitely matter, David. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Just making sure I unmuted myself. Yes, okay, thanks so much. I would like to introduce you to Chris Wise from the Montague Common Hall Board of Directors, which has been David's local village music and dance center for many years. So take it away, Chris.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Cool. So first of all, happy birthday, David, and congratulations on the award. Here in Montague, we're all very proud and very happy for you. David's been a fixture in town for, well, as long as I've been here. We see him running somewhere or at the hall or helping with yard work, hosting weekly music jams, on his way to one or hosting one. He was at the hall, he was always he always stayed into the very, very end, to make sure all the chairs were put away and, the floor was swept up, and he just, someone who always just gave everything when he was around. We'd always miss him when we'd have meetings and he was away, often the Pacific Northwest or down in North Carolina or somewhere, but it was always comforting to know he was always coming back. For those of you who aren't familiar with Montague Center, where the Montague Common Hall is, it's an almost impossibly quaint and traditional New England village. It's got a green with a obligatory congregational church that's painted white with a steeple, and right across the green from that is the old Grange Hall, which is kind of a vestige from a simpler time. It was originally a Unitarian church, and it was converted by old Grangers into a multi-purpose meeting house. And it's got this great, beautiful maple dance floor. So back in the 1970s, David and his merry band of contra dancers came waltzing in to this sort of slowly fading institution. And there they found not a perfect venue, not only for dance, but for creating a genuine connection with some of the older residents in town, and just the community in general. And so he sort of quickly became probably within a matter of months he had become the master of the hall. And under his leadership, the hall became the home to just innumerable types of dances and concerts and workshops, from weekly family dances to week-long fiddle workshops to any number of kinds of things. It just brought a tremendous amount of life back into the hall and to this into this organization that had kind of really been fading away over time. And that's where I met David, was in the basement of the hall over 20 years ago now. There was a contra dance advertised on this old-fashioned flyer that I saw at the post office, and which I later learned David had, hand lettered himself. And we were brand new to the neighborhood, so we wanted to meet some people. So we thought, oh, well, seems like a good thing. We arrived early, and there was a big potluck going on, and David was right in the middle of everything. And he was so cheerful and welcoming that we were just immediately charmed. And I wanted to know all about this play. What is this? This is amazing. It was like, you come to this town. We used to live in the big city, sort of come out here and find this like incredibly lively scene was just amazing. So he immediately roped me into joining the Grange, and within a few months I was like, a full member and an officer, because there weren't enough people to fill all the officer seats. So but he was always really enthusiastic about all of the weird old rituals of the Grange. He ended up being the Montague Grange's longest serving master. And through his leadership and tenacity, he kept a Grange going in Montague Center years after most other Granges in similar sized towns had shut down. And then once it became clear that the Grange was no longer sustainable in our little tiny out of the way town, David had the vision and the grace to help us transition to the Hall's Cart status as a nonprofit community center. And I mean, it's not an exaggeration at all to say that the hall probably would not exist today if it wasn't for David's boundless enthusiasm for keeping it going, and his commitment to having a place for the community to be together. So back in September of this past year, we named the we named the main space in his honor the David Kaynor Music and Dance Hall. Obviously, sadly, we haven't really been able to use the hall recently. We're living in interesting times, as they say, and we're all feeling the effects of infections, both biological and social, that are kind of running through all our lives. But David's definitely helped us remember that it's not just diseases and viral memes that can spread from person to person, that laughter and music and dance are also infectious. David's enthusiasm is what drew so many of us here in Montague into his orbit, and his generosity and his boundless energy has kept us there. He's the kind of person who makes big problems seem small, and yet he makes small kindnesses seem really large. So thank you, David, for all you've done for our little town.
Thank you, Chris. Hey, David, I think we're all getting a lesson in community development today. It feels so good in these times, especially. We now move on. Actually, we move back to the Country Dance and Song Society and the award that has brought us here today. This is now into the last third of our program today, the ending section. Thank you. There's so much more wonderful to come, so bear with us. I'd like to reintroduce Gay Pfeiffer, President of the CDSS Board of Directors. Over to you, Gay.
Thank you. It is my honor to present the CDSS Lifetime Contribution Award to David Kaynor. The certificate reads, and I hope I can do this without crying. On behalf of the membership of the Country Dance and Song Society, the Executive Director, and governing board are pleased to present this award to David Kaynor in grateful recognition of more than 50 years of performing and teaching at camps and festivals across the U.S., humbly mentoring multiple generations of contradance musicians, tirelessly serving as a leader in dance and music communities of Western Massachusetts and beyond, generously sharing tune and dance compositions and writings about dance calling, and supporting generations of musicians and dancers in creating warm, inviting, and welcoming communities through music and dance. Thank you, David.
Hello. I think I'm talking about the scrapbook. Is that what I'm doing? Besides crying?
Yes, about the scrapbook.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Yes, I just want to say happy birthday and congratulations to David. And I just love hearing all these stories. I still think of kind of the pinnacle of my career as a dance caller was seeing my name on one of David's posters after he asked me to come call the Greenfield dance. And I was like, that's it. I've made it. This is so honored. And so, yes, I'm happy to tell everyone about the digital scrapbook that CDSS has been so great about putting together on the website. There are a lot of contributions up there already. And right now, the website will tell you that contributions are closed, but we're going to reopen the portal to send messages. There's a spot where you can upload photos or videos. So if you'd like to add to that online scrapbook of memories and continuing the celebration of David, going forward, we're going to open that back up, and so we'll put out a message once the portal is open again. But kind of think of it as a big virtual guest book that we can all sign to mark this occasion. So we'll share the link in the chat, and it's not open yet, but it will be.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Thank you, everybody. This is so exciting. And David, I really hope that you are able to see all of the streaming comments in the chat, or maybe we can save them for you for later, because holy smokes, there's some just wonderful things, wonderful things going on in the chat today during this whole ceremony. So thank you so much to everybody for attending and celebrating David's many achievements. Thank you to CDSS for giving us a reason to show up today and shower David with appreciation. Thanks to Charlie Pilzer for all the behind the scenes tech work, as well as Ray Siebold, Mary Wesley, Chris Wise, Doug Plummer, Crispin Youngberg, and Max Newman for helping to organize today's festivities. Thanks to all the presenters today, and also to the sustainers who have been helping David navigate ALS with such grace. Thanks most importantly to David for being so awesome. Thank you, David.
There is a way for everybody who's on a regular computer and a PC at least to save the chat. If you go to where it says File at the bottom of the chat, you will see 3 dots. If you click on those 3 dots, it will save the entire chat, and you will find it as a document on your computer, or if you look down where the Google symbol and stuff is at the bottom of your computer, it might show up there as a little flip notebook. But if you click on those 3 dots, if you have them, you will save the entire chat.
Thank you, Storm, for that. I bet a lot of people would like to do that. Thank you, Storm.
I think we're all going to go do that right now. So I asked the other day, I asked David to tell me his favorite limerick. Just a warning. This is a limerick warning for all of you out there. This is David's favorite limerick, and I wish that he could read it to you in his own voice. I was first encountered David's fondness for limericks when I was playing dances with him, and if he encountered a particularly unruly dance crowd of folks who were maybe taking a little too long to line up and take hands for, he would threaten with limericks. And so quite often it was enough of a threat that I never heard the end of many of his limericks. But for you guys all today, I'm gonna give you David's favorite. There once was a man from Madras whose balls were made out of grass. In inclement weather, they grated together and lightning shot out of his ass. Thank you, David.
I think that one thing we could try that we talked about that you certainly deserve, David, is a round of applause. And this could crash the internet, but if Charlie, you could just for about 3 seconds unmute, or 5 seconds, or whatever seems appropriate, unmute, and let's give David a round of applause like the good old days.
That's a smile. Smile.
Yes, that's it.
Hey, it's 100.
David.
We love you, David.
You are awesome, man.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
So much.
Thank you, David.
David, take it all in. You deserve it. Loved.
Smile is another gift. Merci. Dankeschön. Gracias.
Take it all in, David. You deserve it.
Well, thank you. Thank you, David. And thanks everyone for being here. I tell you, that's probably, David, the most applause you ever got for that limerick. Well, we are going into the ending now of our afternoon, and it has been a rich and heartfelt afternoon. We have a video of your classic waltz, David, High Clouds.
Oh, yeah.
It's played for you and for us and danced, not just played, by friends far and near. And I encourage all of you to get up if you're inspired, push back your chairs and waltz along, or just wave to friends as they pass on your screen. When that waltz concludes, and it is a rich and heartfelt performance, our prepared program will be officially completed. But since this journey is not over, it's ongoing and never ending, we're going to keep the Zoom open for another 10 or so minutes after the waltz. And Crispin at CDSS is going to put us into random breakout rooms of just 8 or 9 folks. And we can spend a few minutes just telling a story or two. You can log out whenever you wish, or you could stick around and make a new friend, share a story or two. Thanks one and all, especially you, David Kaynor. Let's dance to High Clouds by David Kaynor.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.